Hey everybody, we're so excited to have you today for another episode with the Matadoras. We have a very special guest, Trish, and she is coming to us and she's lives in Canada and she has a very special story and an amazing business that she started and we can't wait to hear all about it. So Trish, take it away.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I can start with what I do. So I help women who have been in toxic relationships grow their businesses in the online space. And a lot of my story is why I've been able to niche down into this aspect because a lot of the times, we're told let's chase strategy, chase strategy, chase the strategy. But when you've been in a toxic relationship, it's more than just a strategy. It's the self-confidence, the self-worth, actually being visible and putting yourself out there online to be seen. It's one thing to show up every day. It's another to actually say what you want to say and be seen. And when you've been in that toxic relationship, you don't always say what you want to say out of fear of repercussions. It's navigating a lot of the pieces that are not just strategy.
Yeah, and she has a wonderful platform. I really appreciated her because I reached out on a Facebook platform and I was just reaching out in generic, terms to just a Facebook of women entrepreneurs. And Trish was the one out of so many who offered their services for a fee and wouldn't tell me anything at all and wouldn't answer any of my questions. She's the one that came and actually looked at our platform, looked at our, pages, looked at what we were putting out there and gave very specific and very valuable feedback. And didn't even say this will charge you, I'm going to charge you $1,200 or this will cost you, but she just literally just said, "Hey, I'm going to be helpful. Here you go." And it was really relevant. And so, I think any of you in the online space out there or you're starting a business, especially like she said, if you've come from a toxic relationship and, we do get really, really beaten down when we come from that environment and we really doubt ourselves. And sometimes we have to start a job for ourselves because, we were relying on a source of income from our ex. And now all of a sudden we find ourselves floundering
Yeah.
to either need more time with our children because we need something more flexible, or we need something that complements our income, or we just need to start a whole new stream. And Trish is extremely helpful and well worth every penny.
Thank you. I just actually got goosebumps when you said that because there's so many women who are still stuck in the toxic relationships out of fear of, I have no job. I am reliant on them for an income. That's something we should never be scared of. It's when, the narcissistic traits. I get started at the beginning of my relationship. So we were together for 16 years, 11 of those married. I was just 19, I think, when we got together. And I didn't know any different. At that point, things were off and on. And now that I look back, now that I know, there were a lot of red flags that I probably should have picked up on instead of just pushing under the rug. But at the beginning of our relationship, everything was in my name, actually. Our house, the vehicles, everything. Fast forward to the end of our relationship before I left, and everything was in his name. Along the way, there's all of the pieces that come up, the arguments, the kids, and you stay for the kids or you go back for the kids after each argument, and the love bombing cycle, and all of that other stuff that comes along. But that was the biggest piece, was at the end is one of our last arguments, I had left the house because at that point, fight or flight was just flight for me. That was my response, is let me get out of here as fast as possible. But I actually had to call the police to come escort me back to the house to get a vehicle. Both vehicles were in his name, and he wasn't going to let me leave with one. He threatened to the officer that he was going to slash all 8 tires on both vehicles. And she said, yep.
Wow, he's got some
To
gut.
the officer that was at the house. And she said, if you do that right now, I will arrest you. You cannot prevent her from leaving. So at that point, there's already in my head, okay, whatever happens next, I need a vehicle that's mine. And my exit strategy was actually planned out over years because, again, they bring you back in. So after that time, I went back. I won't deny it. I went back. that was not the first time I had gone back. It was the last time that I went back.
And that's not uncommon, right? We just tend to get sucked right back in like a little Hoover.
Well, that it was a week before Christmas. So, 3 kids, a week before Christmas, you're like, okay, like we're gonna go to counseling, we'll try, blah, 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 because that's all you can say about it. But then we ended up selling the one vehicle and we had to look at buying another one. So we were gonna pay cash and then you start thinking, like, well, if we're going to pay cash, it should go in my name. At that time, I was working on my business. I had my business, but I was seeing little to no results because I was so busy in the energy of protecting myself and protecting my kids from his energy, constantly walking on eggshells, never knowing what was going to happen next. But it was that process. So it is a process of planning to get out and doing a lot of the deep mindset work, because one of the things I am constantly repeating and sharing is you go back and you go back and you go back, but at the same time as you start learning, you start picking up on things and you can start doing the you work so that when you leave, like for me, when I left, I knew I had to stay gone. So here's all the pieces I had to do. So I knew that this time I could stay gone.
Did you get this next vehicle in your name?
Yes.
Good. Okay, your name, or did he have his name on there as well?
He paid cash for it.
Okay.
So because I had no job, no income, getting a brand new vehicle, like we already had discussed that we were going to just take our savings and go pay cash so we didn't have a vehicle payment, which was perfect. Like, this is my opportunity to seize the moment. And I didn't think you have to really watch how you say things. So it was more of so for paying cash, can this one go in my name? How you say it.
As innocently as possible, sweetly as you can.
And I had already
that you have to play the game, right? It's sad that you have to play, because most of these narcissists, like, they attract to women or men, doesn't matter. Narcissists can be anybody, but they attract to people that aren't gamers. They don't play games. And so, like you said, having to figure out how to play the game in order to not get trapped once again, it's exhausting, but it's like you almost have to in order to get out, right?
Yeah. You have to. I had a girlfriend who was in social work, and she said little steps: photocopy the kids' birth certificates, have them stored somewhere. Things were so bad that I had bags packed and stored in random places so that if he started one night, I could grab a bag and leave with the kids. He doesn't even know about that.
Which is safer.
Right. Even
Right.
now, he doesn't know about that. And I can honestly say, as of this moment, we are on decent terms. But he has a girlfriend, he's moved on, and that's really helped. If he didn't have her, I don't think we'd be on the same terms. The things that go through your head, I actually wrote a piece of content on it because there's things that you never would think you would have to do to protect your kids in these moments. Like having bags packed. It's not something I ever even imagined I would have to do. But then enough arguments happened and you were out of the house. I spent countless times sleeping on a couch. Been kicked out more times than I could count. Had my debit card and credit card actually taken out of my wallet one night at dinner time during an argument, and I left with the kids for safety until I knew he was gone to work because he was on nights. Didn't even know they were missing until I went to buy the kids dinner. Yeah. I had a girlfriend with me and she bought my kids their dinner.
At what point during the relationship did you realize this is a toxic relationship, or this is not a good, healthy relationship? When did that kind of kick in for you?
That
signs, or did it take a long time?
It took a while. I mean, it did take a while. There was always a something. So an argument, and then, my mom said, she's like, it was an argument and then a child, or an argument and then a new house, or an argument and then a new vehicle. So there's always some big grand gesture. And I never really put that together until after the fact when you sit and look back. So in between my first and my second, there was a lot of signs then. I think the relationship was extremely toxic. And I should have paid attention then. And then to the point that the birth of my second child is a very interesting story, but it ended up, the police were involved. It wasn't because of us. It was because of something else. I was massive and I'm like, I need to walk. So we walked and we walked and we stumbled across something, had to call the police. And the officer that showed up recognized both of us. And he looked, he's like, well, you guys look like you're doing better. And he looked down at my stomach. Because in between the first and the second, when the police recognize you, it's not always a good thing.
Oh.
And then I went into labor from that event, the excitement of all of that. But, you know, that was kind of like a first, it should have been a warning sign. And it kept going, kept going, kept going. Next thing you know, we had our third. And it's always something. And there were so many little pieces. And to be honest, I think it was my daughter, she was my third, that really had me start thinking. Because now I'm like, okay, I don't want her thinking that this is an acceptable way to be treated. And that is a lot of what kept going through my head was her. And then, of course, watching the boys now, how they are treating her. I don't want my boys to think that this is an acceptable way to treat women. So ultimately, it took the children for me to say, I'm not doing this anymore, and start getting, and you know, when I didn't know what a narcissist was. I didn't know what narcissistic traits were. So getting into my business, personal development side of things, start learning, and you start learning, and you start learning, and you're like, oh my God, this happened to me. Oh my God, I'm not the crazy one. Oh my God, he does that. And then what can I do? So I'm not reacting to what he's doing, but now responding. So I get to change the way that I show up, and I can start doing the pieces that I need to do so that I can leave at some point. And then the final kicker for me was he was drinking. It had been a long day of fighting. He went and started drinking with the neighbor and came home for dinner. It was somewhat of a fight. This is the first fight he actually didn't have in front of the kids. He waited till we were in bed, and the words were, do me and the kids a favor and kill yourself. And that was, at that point, I was done. I checked out right then and there. There's no coming back from that.
Wow.
And that's, of course, you know, once I told him I was done and I just wasn't doing it anymore. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. And like, how many hurtful things can you say before someone's actually had enough?
Yeah, exactly. There comes a time when you just know, just know that it's over and you can't do it anymore.
Yeah. And that was it. That's all it took. And like along the way, so the one night when my girlfriend bought the food for the kids, I had asked, and like, you know, I'm very spiritual. So in the universe, give me a sign. Like, what do I do? He smashed my phone and my iPad that same night. That's why I left. And then my bank cards are gone. And like, well, apparently wasn't a big enough sign because I still went back.
Well, and that's understandable. I mean, I think it's just amazing how they love to do those things that put you more and more vulnerable to being independent so that you can do what you need to do. Yet those are the same things that make you say, I don't know how much longer I can deal with this. So, and then we go back.
Yeah, we go back. And, you know, I think a big thing is, and, you know, this is a piece that I want to really share. And I had this conversation with someone after I had left, because he was like, you still love him, you're going to go back. And I'm like, no, I love the idea of who I want him to be. And he has proven time and time again, he is not that person. So yes, I love him. He is the father of my 3 kids. I always will. That's never going to change. But he's not who I want him to be and who I can picture him being. I can see the goodness in him. I think as empaths, you know, that's why a lot of narcissists are drawn to empaths. We can see the good, but we can't make them be the good. So it was recognizing that. And, you know, for anyone who is listening and they're like, oh God, you can't make them be who you want them to be and who you know they can be. You have to look at the facts of who they are.
Wow, that is so well said, because you're right. Like, you know, separating the head from the heart, right? You know, I mean, our heart tells us one thing and our head tells us another thing. And we keep trying to convince ourselves over and over again that this person is a good person. At their core, they're a good person. Because, you know, we all know not all narcissists, like every single day, are like smacking you around or saying horrible things. They have golden moments. They do sweet things for the kids. They'll do sweet things for you. You know, they have kindness in their heart, you know, and they show it. I remember my ex, well, it's mine and Lizzie's same ex, you know, he was like always opening doors for other people and helping little old ladies. He would
Yeah.
run over to their car and help them. Like he did all these kind, heroic types of things. And so I always believed that at his core, he was a good man, but he just had these demons or these struggles.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't put him in the category of not being a good man. And that's why in 26 years, I went back 9 times. You know, Lizzie she can totally identify as well. Like they have their ways of getting you back and convincing you, even
Yeah.
though your heart is saying one thing, they will get into your head and tell you and try to convince you that either they're not such a bad guy or you are a problem. You know,
Yes.
just constantly confused.
Well, I was just going to say, and it's really major when I think we keep going back when it's the parent of our children. Because I didn't go back after, with Rex. What one was done. You know, I'd been there so many times. I think I left my first husband 7 times. I don't have any ties, even
Yeah.
though they were begging me back. I'm like, I've been here before. So I think that tie of children is huge for a lot of people, and not everybody. Definitely
No,
not everybody.
Because
and
you're
I
breaking up the whole
up,
family, right?
yeah,
You're not just leaving them, you're breaking up your family. You're hurting your children, right?
grew up in a broken family. So when I first got pregnant with my oldest, that was one thing I said, I do not want that for them. And then recognizing the pieces. So for me, like for me leaving isn't just me leaving a toxic relationship. I'm breaking generational patterns. And my mom and I had this conversation actually the other night because she was telling me things and she's like, I don't want to talk bad about your dad. And I'm like, because I lost my dad when I was 9 years old. So she's like, I don't want to talk bad about him. I'm like, I already know because I've seen the pieces, my grandfather, the pieces that I remember of my dad and you know what she's told me. I'm like, you don't have to tell me because I already know, like watching my sister and her relationship now, it's toxic. I'm the one here to break that generational pattern. And my mom started crying. I'm like, it's okay. It's why it's so freaking hard because it's not just a pattern, it's a generational pattern that I'm the one who's been given the strength to do it.
Good for you. So well said. And you're right. I will say, being with my second husband and him being such a wonderful person and such a wonderful dad. And I'm only saying that just because I want women out there that are listening to this to have hope that it feels like there are no good men out there. It feels like everybody's broken because you only seem to hear those stories with our filters, you know, that we have with the people that we've associated with and grown up with. But I will tell you, it has changed our entire family dynamic. I mean, my kids and his kids, which there's 8 of them, they're all having babies and they're like, we want him to be the grandpa. We want him around our
Yeah.
children. We want him to be the example of how you treat your wife and how you treat your children. I love when you said the generational curses because Lizzie and I 1000% believe in that. And I feel like that this has broken. I want to cry because it's just like seeing the dynamic in our family now compared to what it was before and seeing that our kids, you know, back when I was married to Rex, were like, I don't want to get married. We don't want to get married anymore. You know, they were all young adults when we divorced. And now they're just like, this is what it's supposed to look like, you know? And it's wonderful. So good job. Great wisdom. So happy you've seen that. For everybody out there, there's tremendous hope if you do want to be in another relationship. There's tremendous hope to find the right person. Like you said though earlier, doing your own inner work is so
Yeah.
important.
It all starts and like that's where I'm at now is I know the work that I've done for myself. I know the standards I hold for myself, for my health, for my, you know, well-being, my emotional well-being, the values that I hold, you know, even like foods, eating healthy, the standards that I have. I need someone who is at that same level because if you don't take care of yourself, well, I didn't do all of this work for myself to be with someone who doesn't take care of themselves. I'm not going to be brought back down. And the people are out there. There's guys out there who are willing. It's finding the right person, because when it is the right person, they will be that person. I've had this conversation as well. Do I think narcissists can change? I think they can, but they have to want to. And that's a big piece. For a lot of the men who are, I refer to men because, that's my experience, right? Being female. And it'll work both ways, but their egos fuel everything. So is the change possible? Yes. Is it likely going to happen? Probably not. But I think for that right person, if they meet the right person, yes, I think it's a possibility. Can they get over the ego side of it? I don't know.
Yeah. My therapist told me when I was leaving my ex, because I'd put in so much time with him,
Yeah.
and 4 kids and the whole thing. And he said, because this has gone on for decades, he said he is now so ingrained with this person that he's become that his chances are less than zero.
Yeah.
He said there's absolutely no point. He said now 20s, 30s, that age, maybe. And like you said, if they want to, but then how do you even know if they want to, right? Because they just
for you, for me, obviously we weren't the right people for them to want to be a better person, for a lack of better words, a better person to their significant other. I wasn't the right person.
After my first husband, I always felt like if they're not willing to change because they see the damage that it's doing to their children and how they actually get to the point where the children really don't want a lot to do with them, I feel like they're not going to change for somebody else. That's my take, actually.
So
yeah,
Trish,
I actually very much agree with that. I'm watching and witnessing that right now.
Yeah, you will find, I mean, I haven't seen a narcissist change to date. I think it's extremely rare. I agree with you. I think that's definitely possible if they want to, but there just seems to be a problem with them wanting to. But I will tell you, unless they're in a relationship with someone who is extremely toxic like they are, if they're not willing to change for someone who loved them and would do anything for them and would take care of them when they're sick and bear their children and become a family with them, they are not going to change for the next woman. And, Lizzie and I have already seen this, our ex go on to number 4. Do you think she's being, no, she's not being treated any better. He's doing the exact same stuff. It's just who he is. And really all he wants is to find someone that will tolerate it.
And be a yes woman.
Yeah, exactly. And just stick around and let them do it. And then when you do, though, they disrespect you even more. And that's the caveat.
Right. Yeah. And I was never that yes woman, so he didn't like that.
Yeah, right. So he actually did. I mean, he begged you back because he respected who you were. He wouldn't have put up with that.
Yeah.
He wouldn't put up with somebody like that for himself. So he respected who you were, but he also wasn't going to tolerate anybody not bowing down to him. So if you had something you would want to say to women out there that have been dealing with somebody like this, like for instance, there's someone out there that she feels like this is a toxic relationship. She admits that it's not healthy, but she's not gotten to the point yet where she is pretty sure that she's not the problematic one. She's thinking about leaving. I mean, what advice would you have for someone in that limbo stage where they're confused, they're hurting? Like you said, when the police recognized you, it was a clue. What would you say to kind of help them over the hump, so to speak?
Look at the facts. You can't change events that have happened. And what are those events telling you? Get out of your heart and look at the facts. It's like our heart's always going to tell us to go back and try and make things work. It's inevitable. If the facts are showing you something different, you can't deny that. And get a support group. Get yourself into a support group of women. It's huge. They still have moments. And the women that I have around me I've never even met them in real life. I've met everyone online. And it's been the most beautiful thing. That's why I've created the TLC, the support group. Because we need that. Even now, like growing a business, there's things that come up and you need that support to lean on.
People need people they can connect to. I'm a firm believer because, people like, can you believe that story? But there are certain pain points that people can share that victims definitely understand. And that's why that support, I 100% agree, is so critical. And I think that's the beauty that we're talking about it a lot more. And I think people are getting more opportunities to find other people that connect. Because Deana and I have talked about, because we're both older, we're both grandmas and this and that. When we went through this, we didn't have that. We both would have looked at each other and said, me and Deana both think that, wow, it would have been a whole different game. Not that I should say it's a ball game, but it would have been so different if we had someone, any would understand what we were going through, and especially for people in the church. We kind of, then that just brought a different, I think, set of problems or issues or guilt or whatever else that we shame, like, oh, it's me, because if I do this, just love it out of them. I mean, we know that now, but we didn't then. So I have another question, unless Deana had something else she wanted to say on that. What would you tell the woman that's out there dating? What red flags or what things would you tell them to, or encourage them to look for, to not get themselves in these types of relationships?
I see a lot of red flags now, so getting back into the dating world has been fun.
I understand that.
I'm trying to think back to the beginning of all the control is a big one. Going out in public and someone would look at you and it was well, what the F are you looking at? Like, that is a red flag right there. You're not a possession. And that is a possession type comment. And that happened in the beginning of our relationship. And I was young. I didn't clue in on it.
Did he have a lot of friends?
Yes. And we had a lot of mutual friends.
Okay.
And in the end, his friends had a lot more respect for me than they did for him. But, he isolated me from all of the friends that I had separate of him.
Right.
They didn't like him. So, that's a big, big red flag right there. If you are being isolated from your friends and family, I didn't notice so much in the beginning. And then I started picking up on it. But, they isolate you from friends and family. So you feel alone. You feel like you are only reliant on them. And like the subtle things that you're not even going to pick up on. It's sad that we have to be so aware nowadays versus, just actually getting to have fun and live our lives. But now it's like, no, I don't like this. This doesn't feel right. Trust your gut. That's the biggest piece. Trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right, or just you're not happy or you're drained, trust it. There's a reason why it's happening.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, it's tricky trusting your gut after coming out of a toxic relationship.
So, coming out of it's a whole different story, because at this point you're like, well, I didn't listen and I got myself into that for however many years. Why would I trust myself now? That's one of the biggest pieces I work on, because, growing a business in the online space, you have to make decisions. Something as simple as, I just bought a new car at the beginning of June. And I told my girlfriend, I'm like, because she left her ex about just over a year before I left mine. And at that time, her and I were talking, and I knew she was getting ready to leave. So I'm like, okay, like things were bad for me then, but I couldn't be there to support her if I did it at the same time. So we alternated in a way. But I was talking with her and she's like, well, you've never been allowed to make the decision. And I was like, oh my God, because I'm sitting here struggling with the decision. I already knew what I wanted, but then I doubted myself and I questioned myself because we were never allowed to make the decisions. Actually trusting yourself after the toxic relationship is a completely different story.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's really, you have to become you. And you don't even realize how much you lost you in that relationship. You were so much a shadow of that other person.
Because
And they're
a human being of who they want you to be.
Exactly. And I didn't even realize it when I came out of that relationship. I was like you, I got married at 17. And so by the time I came out of it in my 40s, I was like, I'm not even quite sure who I am.
That's a huge piece. And I talk with a lot of my clients about, like, you are not who you were before that relationship. But where you are at right now, you have a foundation of your experiences, and you get to decide who you want to be moving forward. And it's like so much self-awareness and identity work, because you get to decide who you want to be and how you show up in the world with this new foundation of, these are the experiences I've been through. You know, I can have empathy for those who are in similar situations. I don't have to be who I was before, but I get to be who I want to be now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it takes some time. It definitely takes some time, but it's a wonderful journey. It really is. It's just remake yourself and your whole identity if you know, if that's what you need and that's who you really are. It's beautiful.
But you get to explore like your hobbies, your values, all of the pieces that, you know, maybe you had to give up or you didn't get to do. I love fishing. And, you know, over those 16 years in the beginning, we would go camping and I got to fish a lot. But if we weren't on the water, I didn't actually go. So
Yeah.
it's little things and you forget how much you love something and love doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gave it up for the greater good, you know, all those years.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I think it could be a little scary, but it's a good scare.
Yeah.
Scare feeling. I think it's
Mhm.
so for anybody that's listening, I think these feelings are very understandable. And
Yeah.
that's what makes, I think when we get to the other side, looking back, you're like, wow. There's just no other comment, right? It's just wow.
Other words are just like, oh my God. And it wasn't really until last year I joined a mastermind and I was sharing some of the pieces that I was even experiencing during my time in this mastermind. And for me, this has become a normal experience. So I'm like, okay, I thought nothing of it. And the response was, holy shit. Like that's not normal. Like, what? It's not normal? No. I'm like, okay. And you don't even realize the depths of what you've been through until you have someone else saying, yeah, that's not normal to go through.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Trish, thank you so much for your time. Love your story. We would love to have you on again, as a matter of fact, because I think with Lizzie also potentially going back into the dating world. And
Oh, that's fun.
yeah, the two of you, I think it would be really fun to have something on, you know, that second chapter going back into the dating world and all the things, all the nuances and things that you two are experiencing and have experienced. And I think a lot of people, once they get past their ex, they're terrified, you know, to go back into another relationship. And, you know, some people just decide never ever to do it again because of that fear. So it would be a very worthwhile thing to address.
Yeah, I would love to.
I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be fun because we're different ages. And I would love to even get maybe a couple other people with different ages because we're at different stages, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't take away from who we are and our desire for a relationship. It's just what's holding us back. So I think this is a great idea, Deana. Thank you.
Sorry, just threw that out there. But I just see the importance of starting your life over. And if you don't want to, if you're not comfortable being alone, you know, then now what, you know, and how do I not make that mistake again? How do I not find another person like that? I think those questions are so valid. So anyway, that's something we would love to do. And but meanwhile, Trish, let us know how we can find you. Let the listeners know where they can find you and your amazing services. And if you want to just throw that out there, then
Yeah. So I can be found on Instagram, the Trish Lynn. I also have my show, The Trish Lynn Show. You can connect with me on both pages. Facebook, the TLC community is my group, the support group. You can come in there and get the support that you need. If you just need a sisterhood of women who get it, we get it. And the community is growing. And it is such an amazing experience to see the women who I want a safe space for you to come in and share. And I've created that, and it warms my heart that women are coming in and they're feeling safe to share their experiences. You know, we try and keep it active and engaging so that we all get to share our wins and we get to share what we've been through at the same time, because celebrating those small victories along the way is such a huge step. So yeah, there, and on Facebook is Trish Lynn.
okay, perfect.
That's awesome.
Well, You all have heard it. This is where you get a hold of Trish Lynn, and she has such a passion to help women entrepreneurs after they've come out of a toxic relationship to kind of get back on their feet, to get their business going, to have all the, the power and the inspiration, and then just the very practical steps and finding out exactly kind of where they can tweak things a little bit to get their message out and to get the customers that they want and to find their target audience. So she's got a great program, and you all would be very, very beneficial. I know that Trish, you have that group that you're starting, and there's the introductory, if you want to just tell us a little bit about that.
So I have a membership that I am starting, and it is $44 a month right now until October 1st, and then the price will be increasing. It's a founding member price. And we are going to come in and have 6 calls a month together. So there's going to be networking, co-working, a mindset call, a strategy call, and then just 2 Q&A. I want to do it like an open table so that we have the questions ahead of time. But, everyone who jumps in has their own perception and expertise. And I want to be able to open up the room to those conversations and to those questions, because I might see something differently than you, and your perspective may be something that resonates with someone in the community. So being able to open all of that up and help you build that foundation for your business, depending on where you are at and the level of support that you're needing, this is a great place to just come in and get eyes on your work, number one, and see what you're needing, see where you're at. And if you need more individualized support, that option is always there. But the membership is just a great, I know I need to do this. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. This is where you start.
And you get a whole team of experts for $44 a month.
Yeah.
Which it'll go up after October 1st. So for those of you listening to this, jump on now while you can.
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Trish. We really appreciate your time and your willingness to share your story. And we look forward to talking soon.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks,
Our
Trish.
pleasure. Thank you.